Hey guys, what's up? Still have some problems with some of my students complaining about, well, not complaining, but just questioning how, what the point of the return statement is and why do we need to use a return statement and what does it do. So let me try to go through it step by step with just one function. I'll just make one up. So let's just define square of x, even though this is something we could definitely do from another method. We could just do it, but I'm just going to say, let's pretend we're going to take an input of x, okay, and we're going to just square it. So we're going to set it equal to x squared. Remember, squared, or the exponent, is 2 stars, okay. Now there's nothing wrong with this function. Watch what happens when I run it. So let's pick a number like 10, so we expect to get 100, right? And so basically my program is going to define this function here first, and then I'm going to call it and tell it to run the function with x squared. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, so done. So the truth is that it did what we asked. However, it didn't do anything with that answer. There was just basically nothing. Now let me show you to prove to you. This is what I used to do when I was first learning. I've just used print statements to see what was happening. So, well, obviously if I print 10, it's going to print 10. But if I want to print x, and I run it, it's going to print 100. So it's actually working. This proves to me that, now watch this though. If I say print x, it says name x is not defined. And that's just kind of strange because I just defined it right here. I defined it within the function. However, when I even printed it out, but for some reason, when I asked it to right now to remember it, it doesn't remember it. And so what you actually have to do, if that's your case, if you want to save this output, there's a couple options. In other words, let's be clear, there is no saved value from this function. Even though it actually ran through this and squared x, it didn't save it and store that value anywhere. It didn't assign it to anywhere. So there's no place in the computer where that information is still there. So when I asked it the next time to print it, it doesn't know where it is because it's gone. Unless I do something else, it's going to not be there. So there's a couple ways you could do this. You could define a variable and set it equal to the square root of 10. So you could define it outside the function, okay? And now if I run the module, this time it works and it's not a problem. Now if I say print again, I have to print a, and it says none. That's weird because a is equal to the square of 10, but when I square 10, I get x squared. And then why is it saying none? This is actually kind of a curious thing. This kind of bothers people, and I get it, okay? And I'm going to try really hard to explain this. What is happening is that even though I'm setting a equal to the output of square of 10, this right here is not considered an output. This is just a print statement. I could add an infinite number of print statements inside this function, and it would do that while it's running the function. But it's not actually considered the output. The output is what we call the return. So the return statement is very important. Whatever I want to get out, so let's just type return, and then I'll put a string. Okay, hi. I'll just make a return statement. Notice how first of all, it's orange. It's nice because that's clarifying that this is part of the defined function. It doesn't have to be. You don't always have to have a return statement. We're going to talk about that. But right now, watch what happens when I do this. Okay, it doesn't print anything anymore. And now when I say print a, it says hi. That's weird, right? Well, that's because that's what the output is. It in fact doesn't matter what's inside the function. The function is basically what we're going to do, and usually we're going to return whatever we do, but we don't have to. We could return anything we want, which is the point of writing hi. Normally, this is what you would see. If I'm going to square x, so this is basically the bulk of my function, I'm going to basically return that to the output. Okay, so let me go ahead and save this and run it again. And I hope that everyone expects this to work now. and hopefully it makes sense. Now that I've returned a as the square of 10, which will be the x value after it runs the function square with the variable 10. There it is. Okay, so there's a couple things here. You can also, by the way, just print square of 10. So you could just run it this way also, and just to see what's happening. So you could basically print the out. If you want the output, and when we think output, human beings think what we see on the screen, what's actually here. I was just doing air quotes, and you guys couldn't see me because I'm kind of an idiot sometimes. But anyways, I'm trying to talk to you like you're actually there, but you get the idea. So when we print something to our screen, it's really just for us to see what the computer is doing, so that we can see and visually check that, hey, our computer's behaving the way we want it to, meaning our code is written correctly. But it's really not considered output. Output is when we return a value like x or y or whatever. This is what we're going to get. Okay, so again, hopefully that makes sense. The return statement is important. Let me explain something. Let me just do one more. So sometimes you don't have a variable, you just have a greeting, and you just have something like, hello, what is your name? Go ahead. And you could even have like name equals input, okay, and then say print nice to meet you. And what you could actually do is run this. So this is an example of where you don't need a variable or a return statement. So for example, if I'm actually just going to be running a function that's like a user interface type of interaction, where I just want it to do this greeting and then run this, and I just basically want to keep my code nice and clean so that what's happening in my program is just written here, I can do this. It goes, hello, nice to meet you, Alan. So you can basically do this because there's no output here. I could have an output. So for example, I could type return boo. I could like return something, and then I could actually print greeting. This is actually kind of funny. I don't actually know what happened. I just wrote this, but I have an idea of what's going to happen in my head. So it's a, what's your name? Oh, Sam. It's nice to meet. Hello, what is your name? Boo. That's weird. Oh, because I actually don't know why that just happened right there. Because it should have said nice to meet you, Sam. But instead it asked me to do my name again. It's actually kind of curious. I'll have to think about why that happened. Anyways, hopefully you get the idea of a return statement, how you could have it be anything. So there's the return at the end. That's the oh, it called greeting. That's why. And then when it called the greeting again, because when it did this print statement, it called greeting again. So that's what happened. That's why it did the nice to meet you, Sam. And here I did it blank. So if I just take this one out, it won't do that. Oh, the bell just rang. Hopefully that didn't bother you guys too much. So now it won't do it twice. Nice to meet you, Sam. Boo. Alright, cool. Anyways, hope that makes sense about the return statement, and you will use it sometimes. You'll often not use it if you're just running a function to do something. But again, if you want to extract output from a function, you're going to have to save it as a variable. So for example, if I wanted to, let's just say I wanted to get this name of the user out of there, I'd have to say something. I'd have to make like a variable, call it username, and set it equal to the function. Okay, so now if I run it and I go Sam, whoops, what happened? Sam, nice to meet you, Sam. Now if I print username, it remembers. Okay, so the output was saved. The output of that function was saved to this variable, and that's the only way to make it available for future use. Alright guys, that was a little longer than I thought, but hopefully that makes sense. Catch you on the next one.